Great. Now that we're recording, we're going to go ahead and get started. So hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Van. Thanks so much for joining us for Navigating NYU, Understanding Your Options. Like I said, Billy did a great job in session one. I hope you really enjoyed the overview of NYU in general. This session is really going to talk a lot about, what are those pathways? What are all those different opportunities? I heard some of you asking about double majors, minors, so we'll talk a little bit about everything. A little bit about me. I'm one of the senior assistant directors on the admission team. I most recently joined the team in May of 2020. I'm originally from a small town outside Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I will absolutely be checking the Steelers game today in between sessions. At NYU, I work most closely with high schools in Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Africa, as well as the College of Arts and Science. But that doesn't mean that I can't help you if you're not from one of those areas. And like I mentioned, whether it's Billy or one of the colleagues you'll meet today, we cover the entire globe and we're happy to help answer any questions you have. So let's get started by going over the agenda for today's session. Again, a lot to talk about. We're going to start with a high-level overview of NYU's global campus structure, discussing our campuses in New York, Abu Dhabi, as well as Shanghai. Next, we'll zoom in specifically to our largest campus, New York, which is where I am located, to discuss the way the program offerings here are structured across our 10 schools and colleges. After that, we'll dive into some examples of different pathways that you as students have to take a variety of different subject areas. And then we'll go over some key takeaways. We'll close with question and answer if we have time. And then we'll talk about your next session, which are the breakout sessions to jump into. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the university structure, starting with our three main degree granting campuses. NYU has a long reputation of being a global institution. You might be thinking New York University, obviously New York, and it absolutely means New York, but it means a little bit more than just that. I recognize that our tri-campus structure still lends itself to a bit of confusion, especially for folks who are not already familiar with NYU as an institution. With that being said, I'm curious to know how many of you today knew that we even had three degree granting campuses. So we're going to go ahead and launch our first poll. We should have a poll coming up shortly here. Perfect. So maybe you came in today and you thought, hey, Kelly, I already knew that. This is not news to me, and I'm going to go ahead and let you take over this presentation. Just kidding. Maybe some of you are thinking, no, I had no idea, and that's okay. It's definitely complex. It's a lot of different options. So there's a lot to learn, and today we'll take time to do just that. Okay, good. Some of you have done your research. Some of you had no idea. And either or, like I said, that's totally okay. That's my job today, to really either tell you something new, something you didn't know, or maybe we'll talk about all three campuses and you can reconfirm information that you already knew about NYU. So I promise, stay on your toes. We'll have more polls to come, but let's go ahead and start clarifying this tri-campus structure for you. There are more than 270 majors across all of NYU. And yes, you heard that right, 270. That is an awful lot. But at all three of our degree granting campuses, you're going to find unique sets of major that are offered only at those campuses, or maybe a variation of what's offered at each of the campuses. So generally speaking, you'll offer some variety of these concentrations, whether it's fine arts, maybe it's the liberal arts, maybe it's the STEM fields, but it's really the nuances and specificity of these majors where you're going to see the most variation from campus to campus. New York is the largest and oldest of the three campuses, so naturally it has the largest offering of all the majors. That's why the majors at New York are divided into 10 schools and colleges. I'll go ahead later on and talk a little bit more in detail about how those are organized, but just know it's kind of our way of saying, here's where each major lives. By contrast, our campuses in both Abu Dhabi and Shanghai are significantly smaller. So for context, at New York, we have about 20,000 students, whereas Abu Dhabi and Shanghai have a little less than 2,000. Consequently, the number of majors offered at Abu Dhabi and Shanghai are also smaller. We'll take a look at the majors offered at each campus here in just a moment, but first I want to show you what it's like on the Common Application so you know how to address what campus or campuses you're interested in. So here it is. Here's what it looks like on the Common Application. And of course, you can see you're going to be asked to rank these different areas of interest or different campuses of interest. Yes, you can select more than one, but it's very important to keep in mind you're going to be considered first and foremost for the campus you elected first. If we're unable to offer you admission to that first choice campus, that's when we'll go on and consider you for a second and even a third choice option. In addition to the majors offered at each of these 3 degree granting campuses, there are some additional considerations to keep in mind when completing your application. It's very, very important that you are mindful about what you're listing in terms of ranking these campuses. So often students are asking the question, should I even list multiple campuses? Like I mentioned, if we're unable to offer you admission to your first choice, we'll go ahead and consider you for your next option. If you thought, hey, this seems really fun, I want to select more than one option, that seems very cool, just know that you might get an offer to study at a campus you weren't seriously considering. Okay, so just be mindful about what you're listing as 1 and 2 and 3, or if you'd like to even list campuses 2 and 3. You're also only going to receive 1 offer of admission. So no, you will not get an offer to each campus. Once this offer is made, the campus can't be changed. And while you can study abroad at our different campuses, you cannot transfer from one campus to another. Okay, so again, why it's very important to be mindful of what you're listing as campus number 1. NYU Abu Dhabi and NYU Shanghai can be really great fits if you're looking to be immersed in a global experience during your education. The smaller student bodies at these campuses offer for a more intimate educational experience while still providing the NYU education that you're looking for. So now we're going to take a few minutes to take a look at the academic offerings across all 3 of these campuses. First up is NYU Abu Dhabi. So here you can see a list of the 25 majors that are offered at this campus. As I mentioned before, you'll see some of the same breadth of academic offerings, but there are definitely some differences and nuances from campus to campus. So for example, you'll see some majors such as Arab Crossroads Studies, that's only offered at NYU Abu Dhabi. You'll also see majors that maybe look a little bit different compared to what's offered at our main campus here in New York, such as theater. These are more condensed versions of what's offered on that campus. But you'll also see some things that are similar, like psychology, you're seeing physics, we're seeing philosophy, we're even seeing chemistry and engineering majors. So again, just do your research. Some of these differences might be more subtle, while others might be more pronounced. It really just depends on the area of study you're looking for. So this is just one factor to consider when you're deciding which campus or campuses you'd like to apply for. I typically recommend to students start by reviewing the courses offered in each of these majors. That may help you determine if what you plan on taking in the future is going to give you the experience you're looking for. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the Shanghai campus. Similarly here, there's a listing of 19 majors that are offered across this campus. As with Abu Dhabi, you'll see a similar breadth in terms of general academic areas. You're seeing biology, economics, you're even seeing interactive media and arts. But there are definitely some differences on what are offered at this campus versus what's offered in New York versus what's offered in Abu Dhabi. So again, just some of the things that you'd like to consider, but you do have options in terms of what you want to study and at what campus you'd like to study at. So now let's go to our last campus and largest campus to see what's available in New York. Before I start talking about this slide, we're going to take our second poll. I promise we keep you on our toes today. How many of you have even looked to see what's offered at New York? We have tons of majors here. You're seeing a big long list. Have you taken a look at it? Have you skimmed through it? Maybe this is the very first time you're seeing it. And again, that's okay. Okay, some of you have done lots of research. Again, I'll hand this presentation over to you and we can go from there. Again, just kidding, but today we're going to take a look and kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of these academics that you're seeing here. And then your next sessions as well, we'll dive even deeper into those opportunities. So this list is honestly quite overwhelming. It is actually the full listing of majors that are offered at New York. And as you can see, there are a lot to pick from. Obviously, the text is a little too small to read each one on this screen, but there are resources that we can refer you to where you can see each of the majors. We wanted to include this screenshot to really just show you the sheer number of majors offered in New York and to make the point how critical it is to do that research before deciding which program or campus you want to study at. While we'll send some follow-up information to all of our attendees, I'm going to go ahead and ask some of my colleagues behind the scenes to drop in some information or links that you can utilize to start exploring these majors more in depth. Bookmark them, save them, look at them this afternoon or between sessions, totally up to you, but just know there are resources out there to help make this list seem a little bit smaller. And obviously it's just such a vast list that we decide to break these majors down in New York into those 10 schools and colleges I mentioned earlier. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Here's a listing of the 10 schools and colleges that house the majors offered at the New York campus. It looks a lot better, in my opinion, than that last slide. And so if you answered that poll and said you're familiar with some of our programs at NYU, you may have heard of places like the Stern School of Business, the College of Arts and Science, or even the Tisch School of the Arts. But obviously NYU is more than just those 3 schools. We have a lot of different options. There are majors in New York that are divided broadly by subject area. So for example, students interested in things like nursing will be applying to the Myers College of Nursing. Maybe you're interested in engineering and you'll probably find a home in the Tandon School of Engineering. In some cases, just like the examples we talked about earlier, it can be easy to know exactly where you're going to be applying. And other times it can be a little bit hard. You'll oftentimes find that one major or area of study can be offered in multiple places at NYU. This is precisely what we mean when we say you may have multiple pathways here at NYU. And again, it's so critical to do your research to decide which pathway is right for you. Some of you may be wondering why finding the right school or college is just so important during the application process. So let's go back to see what the common application looks like once you select New York as a campus. So here we are back to that common application, probably something you heard many times over the course of yesterday and you'll continue to hear today. So if you do elect New York City as one of your campus, this is the second set of questions that you'll see. So you'll first have to select which of the 10 undergraduate schools or colleges you'll be applying to. That's what you see here in screenshot number 1. And so once you select one of those schools or colleges, it's very important to know that you can't be considered concurrently for more than just one. We'll talk about how that works here in just a few minutes. So once you've picked that school, you'll then be prompted to indicate the major or program within that school that you'll be applying to. That's what you see here in the picture number 2. Quick note for our College of Arts and Science students, and I know Billy talked about it in the last session, but you'll elect a major here, so maybe you're selecting philosophy. Just know you're not actually bound to that major. So you do have until the end of your sophomore year to make an official declaration. For other students, that may not be the case. So again, important to do your research on which schools that applies to, or maybe how much freedom you have in terms of deciding on a major or changing your mind within that first year or 2. And then lastly, here in the third picture, you're going to be asked if you'd like to be considered for the Liberal Studies core program. Note, if you heard Billy talk about it earlier and you thought, hey, that is absolutely for me, I know I want to spend my first year abroad, you can apply to this school directly. So just like you'd list the College of Arts and Science or even Gallatin, you can go ahead and list Liberal Studies and start immediately within that program. This is also a good option for students who are not 100% sure which major or school they're ready to settle on just yet. And so we find it really useful, honestly, to let students list this as an alternate area of interest when we're reviewing their application. It's most often considered with students who've applied to the College of Arts and Science, but not always. So it could be up to the admissions committee if they think a student, has a fit for liberal studies or something indicated on their application to make that referral to that program. But again, if this is your first choice, absolutely list it as your home college here on the application itself. And I promise we'd come back to this part. So just a final note, students applying to that New York campus, while you're permitted to list other majors of interest, you're not being considered for 2 schools at the same time. So it's in a very rare and specific circumstance that we might actually make some type of consideration to these alternate options, okay? So just be very thoughtful and intentional, just like you are when selecting campuses, about the school or the primary school that you'll be selecting for the New York campus itself. I know that's a lot of information. I hope it was helpful to talk about each of those campuses, how it works at Shanghai and Abu Dhabi, and how it's a little bit different when you're applying to New York. So that wraps up the university structure portion of the presentation. Now we're going to start talking about those pathways. So this pathways idea, the idea that you have a lot of different ways that you can explore your interests here at NYU, it is absolutely true. So in this segment, we're going to break down noting what students might usually apply to or do, and then kind of other options that you have or things you could do if you have those areas of interest. Let's start first by looking at a couple examples for arts and media related careers. So one of the most commonly applied to programs for students interested in the performing arts is the drama major in the Tisch School of the Arts. And while this can obviously be a great option, it is not the only one. So students can also do performance studies and collaborative arts in the Tisch School of the Arts. Maybe you want to create your own major in Gallatin. That name's going to come up a lot today. And then Steinhardt also offers vocal performance and educational theater, which are really great options for students who think, hey, I'm not going to be the performer, but this area of study is for me. What else can I do? And for students with those interests in media related events, or maybe some type of communication, you might find a home in media, culture, and communication within our Steinhardt School of Culture and Education. You may also find some other alternatives in the Tisch School of the Arts, or even in Tandon with their integrated design and media program. Remember, start with the curriculum. Some of these names may sound familiar. You may be thinking, well, how do I know what's right for me? Start by looking to see what classes will you be taking. Are you feeling excited about those options? Are you feeling like, hey, this isn't quite enough? There's no right or wrong answer. It's really just up to you to determine what is going to fit you best and how you want to spend your 4 years. This is also not an exhaustive list of every option available to students who have an interest in these academic areas, but hopefully just starts to show you that not one path fits all and you do have multiple options. So let's go ahead and look at another example. Let's go into business. It might sound simple, right? Business, of course, Stern School of Business, but we actually have plenty areas of study that cover this business interest. And so yes, while you can select Stern and select maybe the core business major, you also have options to study things outside of Stern that do fall into this business umbrella. Let's look at some things like our School of Professional Studies. So this is a really great option for those students that have an interest in things like sports management, possibly real estate, even hotel and tourism. I think it's no secret that being here in New York City, you're really in the Mecca for these main industries. And we have some very big advantages to our location in terms of studying and getting that real world experience. Tandon also offers its own unique take on business with a business technology and management program. Maybe you were thinking, hey, engineering or computer science sounds great to me, and so does business, and this could really be a great pairing for you. I told you Gallatin would come up a few times. Very popular for students who want to study fashion and business or possibly sustainability. You can create your own major that focuses on these areas of that function. Something to note, if you are interested in fashion, these students in Gallatin typically work with 2 top fashion executives during their time each year. And don't forget about your options on other campuses like Shanghai. Our campus in Shanghai is located in Pudong, which is the heart of the financial district in China. So offering things like finance and marketing specializations might just be a great fit for you. So again, business can take on many forms here at NYU. It's really just up to you to determine what program you feel most comfortable with. Next up, we're going to humanities and social sciences. So for these students, let's take a look to see what they have offered in these disciplines. So most commonly, students are going to apply to our College of Arts and Science. No secret, it's our largest college on campus. They're selecting majors like economics, psychology, even politics is in there. And now, I mentioned earlier the College of Arts and Science students, while they're not bound to their majors, they do have that time ultimately until the end of their sophomore year to select the major inside this college. Just so you know, there's lots of options inside the College of Arts and Science. So ultimately, you could pick any major and study some form of humanities or even social sciences. It's also very common, like Billy mentioned, to pick up minors in this college, or if you are looking for a double major, you will definitely find yourself here. Steinhardt also offers programs in places like applied psychology and that media, cultures, and communication program that I mentioned a few slides ago. We also have our Silver School of Social Work, which is our smallest school on campus, but a really great fit for students with maybe that interest in psychology and even helping professions. And then liberal studies, which we talked a bit about earlier, a great option for students who are thinking, I want to take my time. I want my first 2 years to really explore, see what my options are before electing a school at NYU. And again, it can also be for those students who are very confident that first 2 years is going to be filled with exploration. So whether you select it as your first choice program or an alternate at NYU, it really bridges a lot of places to different schools on our campus. Moving on to our second to last area of study, we'll focus on STEM. So of course, this focuses on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And obviously too, STEM can mean a lot of different things. So most commonly, our students are applying to places or applying to majors like biology, chemistry, even physics. And that typically, again, is going to be in the College of Arts and Science. Beyond CAS, though, we have options in the Tandon School of Engineering and Applied Physics. We also have chemical engineering. Maybe you want to study in the Shanghai campus and you want to complete research abroad. There are options for STEM majors there as well. And another popular technology-related major students tend to be interested in is the computer science program. Again, most gravitate towards the College of Arts and Science, but just know there's also a computer science program in our Tandon School of Engineering. Of course, NYU Shanghai is another great option for students interested in things like computer science or possibly technology. So be sure to check out your interest in those campuses as well. We've got one more subject area to cover, and that would be education and health related fields. So let's take a look at what we have to offer. In the education realm, students will naturally find themselves looking at our Steinhardt School of Culture and Education for things like early childhood education and even special education. However, students with this interest are also good fits for programs like social work, or even, again, creating that major in the Gallatin School of Individualized Study. I think it's pretty obvious that a place like Gallatin, where you're creating your own major, can fit a variety of these different disciplines. For health-related fields, the most popular program is, of course, pre-med, which students can always apply through the College of Arts and Science. As the name of the major would suggest, our pre-professional fields, such as pre-med at NYU, are not actually, honestly, majors. They're tracks. And so that means a student at NYU can major in essentially anything that they'd like. So you could major in engineering, chemistry, biology. Maybe you're thinking you want to go into psychology. You can add on this pre-medical track and get the advising resources that you need to go ahead and go on to graduate level programs. That could be in things like dental school, medical school, you name it. So the bottom line here is that there's a great deal of flexibility with options at a place as large as, honestly, NYU. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the example, the pathway examples part of this presentation. We're going to talk about some takeaways here before we go into question and answer. And then, like I promised, you will have time to go into your breakout rooms after the session to go deeper into those areas that we talked about today. So now that I've gone through some examples, and some of you said you did your research before you arrived, we're going to launch our last poll for today. What subject area do you feel like fits you best? This is not a test. This is not going on your application. This is just where it stands today. I know tomorrow it might be different, and maybe even, Tuesday or Wednesday, it might be different after that. That's okay. There's a lot of options, but maybe today you learned something new or you found a new area of interest. Perfect. I love to see it. A little bit of everything. We feel that way too. We have so many good opportunities here at NYU that, honestly, we love when students are excited about all of our different areas, whether it's STEM, whether it's education, whether those students know that they're going into theater. There is a lot to explore here at NYU. So to wrap up this session, just a few things that if you take away anything from what I talked about this afternoon or this morning, wherever you are, it's that one, put down campuses that you are interested in. Yes, Shanghai, Abu Dhabi, New York, all very exciting places. We love them equally. We hope you do too, but if you don't, that's okay. Okay, only list those campuses that you really feel strongly about studying on. We want to be able to offer you the option to study at the campus you feel most closely or comfortable studying at. If you are applying to that New York campus, only apply to those programs that you're interested in as well. Very important about what you're listing as school number one, as this is where you're going to be considered. And as we talked about too, there are lots of different pathways. So maybe 2, even 3 ways that you could explore the same area of interest. So again, if you came in today thinking, I'm applying to the Tisch School of the Arts, or I'm applying to Stern, I hope you learned a little bit more of other areas or other options that you have at NYU to take your talents and your interests. No right or wrong answers there. Again, it is totally up to you what you feel like is going to be the best fit. One other thing I'd like to mention here is just this idea of being able to articulate those interests. So on your application, you will have the chance to answer that why NYU essay. If you spent time with Risa yesterday at her session, I know you heard a lot of great tips. I was in that session, so I hope you started to write some of those things down, took them with you about what to include, what not to include. We also have the Meet NYU blog with some great articles there about how to tie these interests you have within NYU into that essay. And then when in doubt, ask for help. That's what I'm for. That's what Billy is for. That's what the colleagues you'll meet the rest of this weekend are for. And while we don't always have the answer, we are able to help guide you, provide resources, help you do that research. At the end of the day, the decision is really up to you. And no matter what campus you select at NYU, no matter what city you decide to study in, you're going to get that world-class education that we offer at all of our campuses here at NYU. As the largest private research institution, there are just so many different opportunities available to you. I sincerely hope that this session has offered some inspiration and some creativity about where you can take those talents that you have. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop the presentation portion of this event. We're going to go ahead and dive into question and answer. So that Q&A box is at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and start using that. So go ahead and start using that. You can drop questions in there. I know some of my colleagues have been behind the scenes answering those questions as well. Again, I do just kind of want to give a rundown of what's going to happen after this session as well. So each of these breakouts that I talked about earlier in the session today, whether it's STEM, whether it's education and health, maybe it's arts and media, maybe even humanities and social sciences, we'll be offering breakout sessions for each one. So you'll be hearing from me again, as well as my colleagues, talking in depth about some of the majors offered in each of these areas. So while we covered that a little bit this morning in this session, they'll be able to go, again, a little bit deeper into those specific areas that you might have interest in. So a few things that we're looking at here in the chat today. A question about, if you're not admitted to one school, can you reapply to another, or can you apply to another? You cannot. You're submitting one application to NYU. So again, why it's very important to be mindful of the campus that you're interested in. You can't submit multiple applications, an early decision one, then a new application and regular decision. It's one application. So again, do your research about those campuses. Do your research about what's offered at each one, because again, that decision with that application, you'll be spending your 4 years at that campus. And then in terms of schools or programs at NYU, you're only being considered for that first choice school. So again, you're not applying to Tisch, Ann Silver, and the Myers College of Nursing. You're applying to one of those programs. The exception here is really that liberal studies program. And so we do have many students who will list that as kind of this secondary area of interest. And we do permit students to be reviewed for that if that would be fitting to their application. Question about, is there anyone we can speak to or consult about applying to majors in schools? Absolutely. You can speak to people like myself, one of our admissions counselors on our team. You can talk with the representatives that you'll be in the breakout rooms with next. We also have contact information for our schools. So we know that while we would love to know everything about the schools and colleges here at NYU, we ultimately don't. And so we default a lot of times to our faculty members to help our students understand, what's going on a day-to-day basis in the classroom. Maybe you're interested in our Silver School of Social Work, talking with some faculty members there about the research they're doing or the hands-on experience that those students are having. So one, you can start with the admission office. We can help provide that contact information. You can also find contact information for all of our schools on our website. And just like the events that you're attending this weekend, many of our schools offer their own information sessions, so I highly recommend checking that out. And then I'll go back to that Meet NYU blog. We have a lot of fantastic student ambassadors who have written really great articles about the different schools and programs here at New York City, or possibly Shanghai and Abu Dhabi, that can help you really understand, why certain students pursued certain majors at those schools. So definitely recommend checking that out. A lot of great resources there that you're hearing directly from our current students to help you figure out student to student, maybe what's the best choice for you. Let's see what else we have today. Someone's asking about a concentration in Gallatin. The cool thing about Gallatin is students do all kinds of different programs. I mean, you name it, they can do anything, even, making a pre-med program. We have students interested in fashion. We have students that are combining their interest in like psychology and even theater. So you name it, that is what Gallatin is for. That space is for you to create that program. A little bit about how it works. It may sound like, great, I can mesh anything I'd like together. Not necessarily, or with some guidance. And so you do have advisors in multiple areas of study. So when you come in, you're speaking with those advisors about, maybe you have no idea what's next for you. You know what you're interested in, but you're not sure how to tie it together. And that's okay. Those advisors will help you understand what are your options, maybe where do you want to start to really start building this foundation. We also have students that enter Gallatin and they know exactly what they'd like to do. So they're working with advisors in multiple programs to set up their course schedules for the next year, 2 years, even 3 years down the road. Gallatin is also a place where those students take 50% of their courses inside that school and then 50% of their courses across the other schools at NYU. So lots of options to, again, make sure that this is curating that program exactly the way that you hoped it would be. Let's see here. Other questions from the chat about Gallatin. Some questions here about double majoring. So a little bit about that College of Arts and Science and how that's different than going to a school like Gallatin. So Gallatin is really intersecting those majors. So students have these interests, like I mentioned, psychology and theater, and it's about how do we bring those programs together. I also mentioned things like fashion and business earlier. So again, the intersection of those programs. Whereas we have other students who are interested in studying these two programs independent of one another. So I think Billy gave the example of studying business and then philosophy. So you may be in the Stern School of Business and your second major is in the College of Arts and Science and Philosophy, and you're studying those majors, but not necessarily how they come together. Okay, so just a little bit different in terms of how pathways can go far and wide, or how they can come together ultimately. Okay, again, no right or wrong answer. It is totally up to you which path is really going to fit you best. Question about if your major at NYU or program determines housing. In most cases, no. The one case that is a little bit different is our Tannen School of Engineering. Those students are living over in our Brooklyn campus in residential facilities, but for the most part, no. Our housing, we're matching students not within their zip codes or not within their same majors. There's a lot of variety there. We have lots of opportunities too for themed living. So maybe you're looking for a certain type of community or a certain type of experience. So no, it does not have to be connected to your academic concentration. That question also had a question about entrepreneurial studies. And I really like to highlight the fact that we have this entrepreneurial lab at NYU that is used by students across every single college. So there is not one space that goes without using some type of entrepreneurial research, which is also why a place like NYU, you get to work with students across many different disciplines. If you're a student with a project and you're coming from the School of Engineering, you may have, skills in engineering, but you're looking for somebody that knows creative writing. And so places like our entrepreneurial lab can be where those students come together to meet students from different academic areas or with different strengths, really to make sure that that project gets all the skills it needs. So lots of ways that you can meet different students from other backgrounds that have nothing to do with your academic major. Let's see here. A few questions about the Common Application and aligning it with your program of study. That may happen for some students. You may have been able to participate in clubs or organizations or have an experience at high school or through your community that maybe ties to exactly what you want to do, but that's not the case for everyone. So again, no right or wrong answer. If that is you, feel free to tell us about that. This is your story. We're looking for your journey, and it may be tied to, some experience that you had or a mentor that you had, and that's great. For other students, don't be concerned that maybe you just found this area of interest yesterday and you didn't have a chance to, be active in this field. You can still talk about what inspired you or where this connection came from. Again, it's going to be a little bit different for each student. So it's all dependent on your story and your journey. There's no one right or wrong answer. A little bit about research too. So for all of our schools, just like the entrepreneurial lab, students can do research. Sometimes they're doing it at their home campus. So you may be based in Shanghai doing research on campus. You may do a study abroad site and do research in Florence or even in Madrid. We're the largest private research institution in the country. So there are many resources for students to either do student-funded projects, to work with faculty members, or again, work at one of our global sites. We do have a full listing on our website of all of the research centers offered on our campuses. So maybe you're looking for something very specific or a project to work on. That could be a great place to start. Or maybe you're a student that wants to bring a project to NYU and you can learn a little bit more about how that's possible and the resources that you'll have on campus. But again, determining your major is not going to decide if you get to do research or not. I promise there's a research opportunity for everyone and another really excellent space to collaborate with students from other academic interests on campus. Let's see here. Question about extracurriculars connected to your major. So again, I talked a little bit about how that might look coming onto the Common Application or how it might look during the application process. And no, they don't have to connect, but they may just do that for you. So again, no right or wrong answer, totally up to you about what your experience is like. And then during your time at NYU, same thing. We have plenty of students that come in and major in, let's say, a STEM related field that are very passionate about dance or theater or service in another area like tutoring. There are many ways that you can stay involved or be active in our NYU community that have nothing to do with your academics. There are certainly plenty of clubs and organizations that have to do with academics. So while you can still be active in those areas, we know that you are people that are very passionate about many different things. So if you go to the club fair, we're not going to say if you are, a creative writing major, we're going to funnel you over this way to meet these clubs. It's totally up to you. We want you to pursue those passions. We want you to have the flexibility to explore those interests. And again, Very NYU, we want you to collaborate with students that are outside those academic areas of interest. Again, we know as a whole person, you're more than just what this career is going to be. You have multiple layers of interest, and we want to be able to honor that. Question about creating independent studies that's related to your major. And certainly in some of our schools, this is possible. It's going to be working with your advisor to determine if that's something that you can set up, something you can design. Some of our programs might not be as flexible. Some of our programs might have certain times during the year that you can do this. So again, really talk with your faculty advisors about what your core requirements are going to look like, and exactly maybe what the purpose of that independent study is going to be and how it's going to fit into your curriculum. Question here too about career and job related resources. I know we'll talk about that a little bit more in our breakout sessions here in just a few moments. But absolutely, if you have not looked up the Wasserman Center at NYU, that is our one-stop shop for students who are looking to write a resume. Maybe you've never been on an interview, practicing those interview questions. Maybe you're looking at how do I use NYU Handshake, which is essentially our job posting board. So the Wasserman Center is there from day one, talking about how to prepare to leave NYU. Maybe if you've selected a major, what are your opportunities? What types of experiences should you be having as a current student? And then each step along the way. So as you progress in your journey, talking about applying to internships, when is the right time to do that? What type of experience is going to fit you best? And then long after NYU. So where are we going? With a 500,000 strong alumni network, we have NYU alum all across the world, except probably Antarctica, but I can check on that. And so honestly, no matter where you go, you're running into someone from NYU. And the Wasserman Center can help connect you to some of these individuals to make your job dreams a reality. On that website as well at Wasserman, you can also see where some of our students have gone after NYU. So places like HBO, BuzzFeed, Etsy, to really see what's aligning with your interests. So that can be an important part of doing your research on your pathway at NYU. You may see a certain student was in a certain school or in a certain major and then went off to do exactly what you're hoping to do. That can be a great launching point. So spend some time on the Wasserman Center website to see exactly the resources they have. One very exciting thing this year, Wasserman actually reported that the number of job and internship postings for NYU students actually increased about 20%. So while we were living in this virtual world and maybe things looked a little bit different, our students still had the resources that they always had and then some. So we're super excited about that. Question here about general education requirements. Yes, so we do have a core curriculum at NYU that is actually a little bit different between each of our schools. So your school will have a certain general curriculum requirement that you'll follow once you're admitted. Same at Shanghai as well as Abu Dhabi. It'll be built into your specific program that you'll be studying. Again, you can take a look online at the courses that are offered inside each of these schools and programs to see what's aligning with your interests. And while we do have that core curriculum, you're still talking about taking maybe a language course at Madrid or in Florence or one of our global campuses. So you can really make sure that this global opportunity or global experience can be part of that core curriculum. That curriculum can also be why it's so easy to study abroad at NYU. Every student can study abroad. You may want to take your major courses abroad, and that's okay too. But with a core curriculum, you are definitely able to take at least something abroad at one time or another. So we do send more students abroad than any other institution in the country. You can work with your academic advisor when you arrive on campus. If you have a very specific place you'd like to study, or you know exactly what you want to do while you're abroad, you may also want to study abroad multiple times, and we can do just that. Okay, so that core curriculum can really be the hallmark of making sure that study abroad experience can happen as many times as you'd like. Question here about reviewing the application in the holistic process we use at NYU. So yes, we do use a holistic review process, which is why I mentioned this journey is yours. We're looking at absolutely transcripts, we're looking at letters of recommendation, we're looking at essays, extracurriculars. You paint that picture for us. It is going to be a different picture from student to student, and we are super excited about that. There is no one right or wrong answer. We really are just looking to see who you are and what you feel excited about coming to a place like NYU. So please utilize that space on your application. This is not a time to be shy. This is your time to shine. And again, I'll refer back to that Meet NYU blog, where we have a lot of excellent resources about, how do I even make a list of extracurriculars, or, letters of recommendation, who should I ask? So lots of tips from our current students about, who they highlighted or advice they have about going through that process. Question about studying business administration. I know we briefly mentioned the Stern School of Business. You also have chances to talk later on in your breakout session about, our Tannen School of Engineering, as well as our School for Professional Studies, where you'll find programs like sports management, real estate, and hospitality and tourism. So definitely for that student, recommend going to that business session to hear a little bit more about the options you have that may not necessarily be Stern. Same thing for students asking about, engineering, where would I study? If I'd like to, study humanities, where would I study? When we leave this session today, you'll have the chance to jump into those breakout rooms. Highly recommend choosing your primary area of interest. You can learn more about, what's offered at Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, and New York for that specific academic umbrella. Looks like my colleague dropped those links in the chat. So you'll see each of the breakout sessions there that you can elect from. Again, please select your primary area of interest, but just know we'll be providing resources for you to look all across these academic disciplines because we know it may change. And so while it's one thing today, this is definitely a journey. There's a lot to look through. So we hope you do the exploration that is, best for you. There's also going to be a breakout session about study abroad. So within that session, you can learn a little bit more about the study abroad options that you'll have as a student at NYU. So again, just pick the area that you feel most closely related to or want to get your questions answered today. Let's see, someone asking, we got time for a few more questions. Someone asking about, do we look at grades first and then the rest of our application? Holistic means that it can happen differently. So there's no one plan fits all or one way an admission counselor reviews your application. Everybody does it a little bit different, but just know we do look at all of the pieces equally. So anything you're submitting should really tell that story, from letters of rec to the essays, to the common application essay that you're submitting, to your transcript. What's this picture here? What picture do you want to paint for NYU? How can you help us get to know you better? Okay, so make sure you're using all of those sections of the application wisely. And again, no right or wrong way to do it. Just do it the way that best tells your story. Some questions about academic requirements too at NYU, studying, certain years of a language or certain requirements for sciences. We do have recommendations on our website about what some of our most competitive students are taking. Just know we know every high school is created differently. Certain high schools offer certain courses, maybe they change from year to year. We are acquainted with what your high school is offering. We have counselors that work with high schools all around the world to understand what that curriculum looks like and what opportunities you have. So just know we're working to understand that and what your options are. So don't be concerned if there is something listed on that website or recommended that isn't necessarily offered at your high school, okay? We are doing our best to understand, what those options are to you. So with that, we are at the 1:30 mark. We are going to go ahead and take a quick break as we transition into our next breakout sessions. Again, those links are going to be in the chat there. So you have a few minutes to take a quick break, and then we'll go ahead and jump into those sessions. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking time to learn more about NYU and the opportunities you have. I hope you enjoy your breakout sessions, no matter the pathway that you choose. And again, next session will start at 1:35. So thanks again and enjoy the rest of your day.